Hello and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duval, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who has learned some things from Morgenholt that we don't want anyone to know.
Tim Longo.
At least I expect you have. You know, you tortured the poor guy enough. I guess you're this... I don't even remember his name already. Lahurza? Yep.
Oh boy, we're the worst.
We are bad. Yeah, my brain is firing on half a cylinder at this point. Because sundowning.
Well, but he's dead now anyway, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we don't look in the rearview mirror. We don't even need to know his name. All we know is he's gone. We are, of course, talking about Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, where I have just caught up to where Tim was last week, and Tim has advanced another level because I spent some time this week, as promised, digging out my Xbox, brushing off the old, Splinter Cell copy, which I had literally never put in that Xbox, and unfortunately still haven't. As after I dusted off the Xbox, connected it up, and powered it on, I got the red ring on the I guess the eject button is where the red ring goes because it's the big button on that system. And then I reconnected everything and redusted some things, and yeah, it's Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. So there was no updated report of how it plays on a controller, but I may give it a try on the PlayStation 3 this coming week to finally answer that question, because I bet it plays pretty well on a controller.
I think so. I think to be honest, I would bet that Clint / the team would consider it to be a game designed for a controller. That would be my guess. Maybe we get somebody on to confirm that, but because I feel like the PC controls are a compromise for what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Though it is, as we talked about, weirdly nice to have almost like a digital acceleration variable where you're like, I'm going to accelerate this much, but it's still weird. I really would rather have a stick to kind of feather that. I know you're not a fan of that, but probably carpal tunnel reasons, but
yeah, it's claw hand problem. Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, so but it just speaks analog to me. But anyway, yeah, I'm just interested to know. I probably could get it going on PlayStation 3 as well, but I'm a little bit too far in, I think.
Yeah,
I think I want to commit to the PC controls and see how it lands. I mean, when it comes, not that Metacritic stands for everything, but if you look at them, the Xbox version has the highest one, and I think PC has the second highest one. So
yeah,
it's like by 1 or 2 points off, so it's largely the same.
Right.
But the controls would be a variable, I would think.
Yeah, and the being able to dial up the resolution, because on the original Xbox you would have been playing on a CRT, so you'd be limited to 480.
Right. Yeah, that'd be good, because it is for its time a really good looking game.
Yeah, and being able to just dial it all the way up to native res 1080 on my monitor is just really nice. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, it holds up.
Yeah, it holds up extremely well, which is not something we talked about, but it is a credit to art direction. Usually I put that with, Nulf 2 is another one in this same space that I put up there as another one that just like made really, really good choices to make that game, hold up really, really well. And a lot of things that were on the original Xbox that I have played on that system, like you look at me like nobody would want to play that even up res today, because it just like they did not. I'm thinking of like I don't know, the original Max Payne, which looked pretty good on the PC, but then on the Xbox was challenged. I think it might have been a first time on that platform or on a console even, because I think that was a PC house before that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, not to, but it is nice to be able to like see this really gorgeous as dialed up as you can. Like just go to all the settings and just turn them all the way up.
They
And
also have shader
that's
stuff
cool.
going on too. In the PC, you can, if you go to advanced, there's actually quite a few options that were, I would say, cutting edge for its time too. Like there's shader models, two different shader models you can choose from. It does
Oh,
create some
interesting.
bugs. It does create some bugs on modern
A
that I
modern
found on
hardware.
modern. So I had to
Yeah.
dial back down, but I think you can go, yeah. So you get a lot of extra bells and whistles, but I assume they wouldn't have been on console.
No, on the Xbox, he would have been purely fixed function. You wouldn't have had a shader um,
Oh,
model.
right. Fixed function. Sure,
Yep,
sure. Uh-huh.
yep. That's
Good
what it was
old
called, fixed
fixed
function
function.
pipeline.
Yeah, you could have made that
Uh,
up. I
I,
could have.
I know that I could have made it up for you, but somebody out there is going, "Ah, yes, I remember those days." Um, I had to have that explained to me when we were making Republic Commando, so it's not like I'm some great shakes at the rendering stuff is not my bag, um, because it's so specialized. But anyway, so that's the tail of the tape on the Xbox. But let's talk. I don't even know where to go. Let's go straight into the stealth systems, because I think that's kind of a top line item that we really should talk about more, and then we can talk about some of the mission stuff. But in the vision system that you were discussing, and that's really helpful in the bank. Um, the lighting and audio systems for stealth, and maybe we can talk about the AI state as part of that as well, because I think it's all part and parcel in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they all have. Yeah, they definitely
They
all
all
have to work
contribute.
together. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to start talking about this last episode, but still just the first episode, we always have plenty to talk about, and it was too early. But so I got to the bank level and finished that, and the reason that I really wanted to start talking about it this episode, I don't know how many episodes we're going to do. I guess maybe we'll be able to do 4
Hmm.
for this. There are 10 levels, and we'll see if we finish or not. But it's manageable. They can be long depending on how you play. But with the bank level, the third level, they really start getting into leveraging some of the stealth systems and mechanics that they have going on. And I know we've talked about Clint's approach before. He's had some really important game theory approaches that everyone uses today. You mentioned ludonarrative dissonance already.
Yeah, last week.
There's the MDA school of thought, right? Mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. And so there are very important things that that Clint has spoken about this. We don't have to repeat, but and we've had him on where he probably talked about some of that stuff too with Far Cry 2. But you're starting to see his thinking and the team's thinking. Again, it takes a team. I know Clint would agree that it's not all on him, but it takes a team, and this team was clearly very good. But there's some sensibilities that start coming through, and with the stealth systems here, the things that I'm starting to really appreciate, and the bank level is the first 2 levels had some of this going on, but of course they're going to want to onboard you some so they don't overwhelm you. But if I just talk about light and sound for a second, one thing I've been appreciative of is both have analog elements and both are heavily connected to the level design and the world design. And so the fact that you have these now, it does make it more complex, of course, to parse. And there's definitely been times when I have gotten myself in trouble because I was watching one meter and not the other meter,
Hmm.
and they don't always go hand in hand, but it does create this over layering effect, right? Where you could have a very bright area that is very quiet, or you could have a very dark area that is very loud, or a very dark area that is very quiet. So you might be in the dark, but you can't run because you'll make too much noise because it's super quiet, right? So there's already beyond Metal Gear, there's these layers that are happening with just taking, I'll talk about the gameplay objects separately in a second, but just taking light and dark, because they are analog meters that they do have some tick marks on them and stuff. So you have a little bit of, and actually, to be honest, I'm not sure if those tick marks, what the light the light meter means, because they have like segments.
Mm-hmm.
Those might mean something that I don't know yet. I don't think the tutorials explain that.
I don't think that's been explained anywhere. My intuition is that it reflects a distance at which you can be seen.
Oh, that would be great if that was true. Yeah, that's good intuition. Yeah, I would love for that to be true. I will test that out and see if that's the case. There's probably an answer someplace online. And of course, the audio has little tick marks for each sort of segment, so that's much easier to say. Like, okay, the the audio system is actually an easier one to talk about in a way for me, because something that I've been racking my brain for another example, but for me is a huge takeaway. And as a stealth fan, and apparently a stealth developer now, because we made
Yeah.
a stealth game
Yeah.
that is revelatory, and I didn't know about because I hadn't played this game, and I really feel bad about that being a blindside. But the fact that the ambient audio noise in the level, whether it is player triggered or level designer triggered, or I guess I'll say AI triggered, um, has an impact on your stealthiness with your audio and your footsteps. And then you have how accelerated are you? So you
Right.
have analog ability to increase your sound quotient. Quote, is that appropriate
Sure.
word?
Yeah.
Yourself, but then you also have to take into account your surroundings and what the AI are doing. So even if an AI is walking, they are creating ambient noise that can impact how much you can be heard. An example early in the bank level is there's a valve in the open courtyard area you start in that lets you turn on the sprinklers. If you turn on the sprinklers, the ambient audio for the area goes up. Therefore, you can move more quickly because your footsteps aren't heard as easily. And that is a player driven thing that a level designer put in there as an opportunity for the player in this specific area that allows you to get through a section, provided you can avoid the lights, and
Yeah.
so
Well, it even ties into the lights in that if you were moving faster, there's another intuition, which was something I was trying to do in one spot. If you're moving faster, like they don't pick you up the frame they see you, right? They have a time over which I mean, it's a short
mhm.
time, but I think that the AI is perceiving you over some period of time. Like, aha, you first became visible to the AI, but you
uh,
actually have a little wiggle room there.
right, they're turning, or they have
Yeah.
some sort of unspoken vision cone or something,
Yeah, or yeah, I'm sure that I mean, they
or
definitely have
radius.
vision cones. Yeah, and a radius, but also like,
Yeah,
how visible are they? If they're really visible, I can pick them up that first frame. But if they're kind of still in low light, but they stay in it long enough, I will see them. I've definitely noticed that. Like I went to a spot and I'm like, can they see me? And it seemed like not. And then they would see me eventually,
yeah, right. There's like
so
a right.
yeah,
They're getting their eyes adjusted to the darkness or
exactly. Yeah.
something.
It's
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, it's like you wake up in the middle of the night in a dark room, right? And you look over and you think there's a person standing in the corner and oh no, it's just my robe,
yeah. Wow. It's like that 3 Men and a Baby standee. Anyway, let's look it up. Uh,
Okay. I just remember when I was a kid once waking up that way and being like, oh my God,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
somebody in the
yeah,
room with me. And
yeah.
then 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, that's my robe. So,
Yeah, sounds like poltergeist moment to me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the sprinklers was the example I wanted to start with, but once there were some places on the ship level too when you're in like near the engine area where the engine noise was
Hmm.
up, right? And so
Yeah. There's a
as
guy
far as
who's using like some kind of metal grinder or something or a saw as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And like you can just walk right up to that guy.
exactly. No, that's a
And in
great
fact,
example.
if you interrogate him, Fisher says something like, it's pretty loud down here. And it means I can sneak around real easy or something like
Yeah,
that. So,
totally. Yeah, so they have a lot of great. Yeah, we won't talk about this time, but I think we should continue talking about the tone of the game because it's
Hmm.
not what I remember it to be, but kind of in a good way.
Hmm.
Anyway, so you know, the audio system specifically, I've just been floored by because um, we still struggle today coming up with new ways to deliver stealth mechanics and systems to players and
Yeah.
come up with fresh ideas. And this one, for some reason, I just feel like for audio, and because I obviously, as everyone knows, I play a lot of Hitman. For audio, it tends to be pretty binary these days. It's like, are you sneaking or are you not? And if
Right.
you're running, you're making audio. But it's like,
Yeah.
and a lot of times they do that for clarity.
Yeah. I mean,
Player
that thief was that way, for example. Yeah.
thief is a good example too,
It's
right?
like,
And
are you walking on moss or
yeah,
carpet,
right,
or are you walking on the tiled floors? And that was
right.
the distinction.
Yeah, and that was a very good, like, clear indication, and it worked well, right? And then they had the light gem and, so
Right.
they had their versions of that, but I've just been very appreciative of the nuances that you get with that because it's sort of like a mini game in a way where you're really like I at least am trying to always push the limits and feather
Yeah.
that audio meter because I wanna move as fast as I can without being heard. So, I go up and I just have the little tick marks go up right to the limit, and then I kind of dial it back. And then when I have something, like the sprinklers, and I dial it up, and then when the sprinklers go away, I dial it. So it's really interesting kind of mini game there. And then on the flip side, you have the light. And so in that same courtyard, they have introduced motion censored lights. So
Those
if you
jerks.
if you can imagine, oh, I've turned the sprinklers on. I can move faster because I can't be heard as well. Oh, wait, I just moved too fast, and I tripped the motion lights. So now
Right.
I'm in full light.
Right.
So now you have these layers of these gameplay objects that people have put in the level to create all of these interesting mixture of things. And that's only like on one side of the courtyard. On the other side of the courtyard, there's things you can throw for distractions. It's much darker, but the sensor lights are there. So, and then inside the bank, I could go on, but there's just a lot of, I can start, and then there's the whole electrical system to move on to the next topic that you mentioned is sort of gameplay objects where they have, electrical boxes that if you turn on your electrical view, you can see kind of like instinct mode in Hitman, where you can see the wiring to what light it goes to or what mechanism it goes to, right? And so they're giving players opportunities to interact with this stuff and kind of game plan out how they want to approach getting through a door, even a simple thing like that. And um, and I don't mean to. I know we're going to be doing this throughout the whole series. I don't mean to pit it against Metal Gear, but I guess Metal Gear much more tends to focus on the AI interactions as ways to create opportunities for yourself, and I just don't feel like the world and level design tends to be very deep in those
Mm.
games, other than the paths maybe, and your opportunities. But it's like you're
Yeah, I
watching
would say
people. It's
parts of
much more
Snake
patrol.
Eater are really good for that because of the camouflage. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
the
um,
camouflage system, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you have some of that going on, yeah, but they do try to innovate, but, I think it's, maybe, maybe it's just my level designer, peeking through, but I've just been really, appreciative of the depth in how all of these things are starting to intermix, and with something as simple as introducing a sprinkler, which sprinklers are used in the end of the level as well. I think for the same reason I haven't.
do you extract by going through a hose?
No, it's well, it's a
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
that yeah, well, I mean, well, it's a good, it's such a silly topic to talk about sprinklers this much. I've spent so much airtime on sprinklers, but I think it is a good example of this franchise for me in that it's a very grounded thing you could imagine finding in a courtyard of a bank. And then also you could imagine finding it inside a bank because of fire.
Mm,
Their sprinklers could be anywhere, right?
right, right,
Because
yeah,
buildings need sprinkler systems, and so the sprinklers at the end are actually in the bank vault that you get into, and you can turn them on. And I think it's probably for the same reason for audio, if they, once they start coming after you. But there might be another reason I don't know about. I'm wondering if it Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I think it's just about audio, but they've introduced this
Well,
game.
I mean, you can also imagine it from a player, the player sort of going, "Uh-oh, now I got to really move because
Right.
when sprinklers go on, people are alerted. People know. The fire
And the
department
end,
will be called. Or whatever."
right. And the end is kind of like a get out fast kind of
Right.
moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, so it
It
does.
adds a kind of tension that
Yeah.
just comes from regular human knowledge of how the world works. Right. So
Right. Exactly. But it's built, but it's put into the game in a nice
yeah, in a
game
systemic
design
way. Yeah.
way. Yeah. And so I want to talk about Sprinkler specifically because as we start going, and I won't hit the others because they've introduced new cameras and a bunch of other stuff inside lasers and how you deal with those. Um, and if we get to the keys that aren't keys topic in this episode, I'll explain an example there that is hilarious and maybe now my favorite key that isn't a key of all time. That
Wow.
obviously they didn't know was a key.
That's quite a buildup. We'll
Yeah,
probably hit it
well,
next as a result.
yeah, I mean, it's is it as good as Eternal Darkness spells? I don't know, but as we've talked about since that concept was introduced, like literally every game has keys that aren't keys. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but this is a funny one that also is chef's kiss systemically driven in a very clever way.
I'm just talk about it, man.
Okay, all
Stop
right,
talking about how we're going to talk about it.
okay. So the in when you get into the bank, they introduce lasers a la Mission Impossible, right?
Okay.
Where trip lasers, and they put them in hard to avoid patterns, right? So sometimes there's a little puzzle of like, okay, how do I navigate this so I don't trip the laser? So that's kind of interesting, and you can kind of disable some computers. But the rooms that are just like across the room, they introduce this concept that the guards have something on their person. You can interrogate. I won't spoil it, but you can interrogate somebody to find out what it is. It's kind of funny. Something on their person that allows them to walk through the lasers. And so what they introduce is you can follow right close behind somebody to what do they call it? Like draft off of their laser shadow or something. And so
Okay.
you can walk through the lasers if you're right next to somebody while you're doing it. But the coolest part is once you interrogate somebody, you get the idea. I didn't think of it until I got the idea from the actual guard. If you knock them out, or I guess kill them, they still have whatever they have on their person. So once you pick them up, their body, you can walk through any laser you want to,
I love it.
as long as you're holding the body,
That's so
because
good.
the body is the key. So
That's very cool.
it's like, oh, that's so good. Because what is, these games are always about taking people out and moving their bodies or picking their bodies up. It's like we already have the concept and mechanics and systems about bodies, whether they're unconscious or dead. Mine are always unconscious. And he actually says that too. There's a great line where the guard says, well, so you're going to, Sam says, oh, so I guess I could use your body to get through this. And the guy goes, what do you mean? I hope you mean unconscious and not dead. And Sam says something like, well, that's for me to decide, or something like that. So yeah, the concept of picking up bodies becoming a key for you is just, yeah.
That's very
that
good. For what it's worth, I tend to think more entrapment when I think of lasers, but that just says something more about me.
Okay,
I
fair
imagine.
enough. Yeah. Wait, is that the Sean Connery?
He's like Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
Who cares who else is in it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that gratuitous scene.
That
Yeah,
seems ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good key that isn't a key. I like that very much. We should talk. I guess we'll go, and since we're talking about the fact that you've basically done the interrogation move on that guy, we might as well just talk about the interrogation system, because one of the things I didn't appreciate because I was killing everybody in the first level is that some of them know things. I think it's in the
and
videos.
only some of them.
Huh? Yes, and only some of them. Yeah, and the ones that don't, that you don't get a prompt to interrogate them, so
Right.
they're just fodder, I guess. kill or knock unconscious as you choose. Which button does which when you do that? I actually haven't been clear
For
on.
for me, yeah, I guess you're playing on PC still too. It's
Yes.
right. It's right mouse button is the non-lethal.
Okay.
So
I've
if
been
you're
mostly
holding
doing
them, you do
that.
right mouse button, you'll choke, you'll
Got it.
knock them out. But if you do left button, you'll break their neck.
Okay. Yeah.
Or do something like.
I did actually have one guy that I was dragging back out of sight. This was very funny. Anyway, well, first let's talk about interrogation. Then I'll talk my little story on the boat. So one of the objectives you get in the boat mission is to find Lucerda, I believe is his actual name. And
You've redeemed us.
yeah, I mean it's all there. It's just the access times get longer the later in the day it goes. At a certain point, you don't know where he is on the boat, and your handler basically says you're going to have to find out where he is, and take him out. And the way I did that was to interrogate a gentleman in some computer room, basically on the top center of the whole ship. Like there was a little room, intelligence room of some kind. It's just like screens everywhere and a guy sitting there. I think this might be the one where you were looking at the sheet of paper next to him, or that might have been the other guy where he was like at the computer or sitting down and like behind him is a cabinet. So there are a couple of those kind of moments in that level. But I went, and because I thought I was going to have to look in the computer, I was like, oh, I'll just grab this guy. And I was like, oh, I can interrogate him, which I hadn't done very much of. And I interrogated him, and he said he's in the captain's quarters, which are on the port side level 3 or something. I mean, he's very specific and told me exactly where I needed to go. Unfortunately, I had just been on starboard side level 3 before I went up there, going through a bunch of rooms I didn't need to in order to get to my goal. But it was fine. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like I didn't expect that. And so I started doing more of that because then I went back down and there were still some guys around. And that's when I discovered like, oh, but not all of them. And I was like, huh, am I supposed to, I'm presumably I'm supposed to intuit in some way which ones are and which ones aren't. Like, and, I mean, granted, I could just knock out everybody that way or kill them, whichever, in order to just kind of make them not important. But I was trying to be more like, don't just get by people if you can just get by people. A lot of guys I just left alone, and I left it for them to not get paid because they didn't keep the guy alive. But at least they have their lives, Tim. And yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty cool thing and something I'll be watching a lot more for to see what the tells are. Like, are they obviously special in some way? Not in a gamey sort of way, like in a lot of games it would be like, oh, there's a red highlight around the person,
right,
who has the key, or whatever, and if you use some vision mode, you see that person, through walls, and you're like, oh, I know where that person is. Or you tag a person and it says, oh, that person has the key. There's lots of ways that stuff is done. I'm curious to sort of discover if there is some tell that's in situ, because so many of these things are, like sprinkler systems, for example. So I'm curious about that, and I'll be watching out for it.
So yeah, the thing, and you mentioned it already, but the cool thing about the interrogation system is, to your earlier point, there are consequences to taking somebody out too early, right? Like especially from afar, killing them. Obviously, you lose that opportunity. In fact, there was an objective at some place. Oh, it was actually the same one for me, because they explicitly tell you that you could go interrogate I didn't know the guy that you found out where he was, what cabin he was in, was that guy, because they tell you to go interrogate the captain, which I did, and the captain tells you he's in his own quarters, because he demanded it or something. So I had to sneak into the bridge and interrogate the captain to do that. But one time I knocked him unconscious or choked him unconscious, and the handler guy said, "Oh no, well you just lost your opportunity to find to find Luerda.
Lucerda, yeah.
Lucerda. You just lost your opportunity, so you're gonna have to figure it out yourself.
Oh yeah.
They
Huh.
actually accommodated that because you could obviously just explore the ship and
Yeah.
find him that way. You didn't have to interrogate anybody. So there's multiple ways to achieve your goal, which is amazing. And the fact that they give consequences to killing through interrogation. And I will, as a hint for you, interrogation, in my opinion, becomes even more important in the bank level.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
expect so.
'Cause
Yeah.
there's actually like codes,
Yeah,
keypad
I
codes.
figured there would be things like that in the
Yeah,
bank. Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
and there's multiple keypad codes, and so if you interrogate the right guy. Now that you mentioned those, as far as like how do they tell you who's in that case, I'm thinking back that it might actually be if you listen to them mutter to themselves about whatever.
Yeah, there have been people who have conversations and things as well that seem like they're important. Sometimes they're mostly flavor. There were a couple of guys who were talking about the fact that they're on a Colombian ship and their coffee's terrible, which I thought was very funny. But which I will say most Colombian coffee is actually grown for export. So in Colombia, their coffee is not as good, which is
Uh,
which is strange. But what are you gonna do? Not it's not really important to our mission here tonight, Tim. I'm just reflecting on that. Um, yeah, so I did think that maybe it was that those were more distinguished characters just by dint of having something to say, just whether they're muttering while they're working or what have you. The one guy I did interrogate on that top floor, he was just sitting working. Like he didn't say anything. He,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it was like, there was nothing. He did look different. He looked like he actually looked like he might be a ship's officer of some kind. Um, so that
Oh,
might
yeah.
have been a clue. Like I think he was dressed kind of in whites a little bit. Like it's kind of hard to tell because it's such a dark game, but he definitely looked a little bit more like not military uniform, but like ship uniform.
Yeah.
So like he was I don't even know what he would be, but because I'm not a ship guy, but yeah. Anyway, so my brief interrogation story. So there was a guard. I was exiting the level. I had found and killed Lucerda, and was making my exit. And since I had been all around in the area where I had made my exit, where I had gotten that information, and then had to go back, I I had disturbed some of the patrol up there from their normal routes, and there was one guy who was directly in my path, like he was just hanging out there, and I don't think he had been there before. It's possible I went some other way, who knows? But so I went up behind him and I grabbed him as if to interrogate. I didn't have the option, but I was backing away because I just wanted to get. He was in full light. I thought other AIs could patrol that area. Pretty sure in fact, I think somebody had interacted with this guy. So I'm pulling him back, and I stepped back um, over the open staircase. And so I fell a floor.
Oh,
Um,
serious?
yeah, with the guy in my arms, and that broke his neck.
Oh my gosh.
He just died when we hit the ground. I was like, well, I guess they planned for that. I was not, it was like, it was like, it's like when you're climbing a set of stairs and you miss, you're in the dark and you
Oh,
miscount the steps and you're like have one extra, or you don't have one extra, what you're expecting one and it's not there. It was a sudden
yeah.
like, oof, like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Kind of moment in the level. It was very funny. And he ended up dead, which was not what I had in mind for that guy. But
That's amazing they accounted for that.
yeah, I was very surprised that it just dealt with it. Just I mean, it's probably the most elegant solution. Like I can't imagine like him surviving. Like it just that wouldn't make any sense. So, or you just like or just nothing happening. But they just dealt. He just died, and I let go of him. I didn't make any snappy quips, but it was cool. It was a cool moment. It was very funny because it was entirely unintended, but it was good. Um, you had touched a little bit in there about the mission, the multiple objective solution and paths, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to let that get away from us, um, because we found two different ways to identify where Lucerda was, um, Or actually, I'm not sure how did you find out after that once you choked out the captain?
Well, no, that I think I set an alarm off or something, so I actually
Oh, you had to reload.
actually
Okay.
I might have, because there's a first mate in there who might have killed me.
Oh, okay.
I think I did the first version sloppily, so I
Got it.
reloaded
Got it.
again.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. So you didn't find a different path, but there was a different path available to you. Where were some paths that you found different solutions for?
I'm trying to think on the ship that was. I mean, the thing is the way I think I, because they told me to go to the captain. That one didn't. I didn't even dawn on me there would have been other ways
Yeah.
to find the solution. You talked about getting to the bridge even just from a flow perspective right away or early
I got
because
to
you
the
didn't
bridge.
see a door.
They
Yeah.
said, yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Well, so I went. What was I trying to do? I don't think I registered that they wanted me to go to the captain. I don't think I really even got that part of the message because, you're doing something and then they're talking about things. They're like, he's in one of the cabins. So I was looking at all these cabins. Um, and I actually opened one. There's a guy in there and he saw me right away. And I ended up having to reload and redo all that. It's like, okay, I don't want to do all of that. I'll just go to the end of this hallway. He's not in any of them because I killed that guy and it was like not, it didn't say, okay, you got him. So I went up the stairs and I was like, and now I'm in the bridge. I
Hmm.
sneakily crossed the bridge and went all the way up to the top, and that's how I found this other guy. So it was entirely kind of random, but it
Yeah.
worked. It's like if you explore, you'll find opportunities, which I
Yeah.
thought was really, really good. And what I learned was coming back, I was like, oh, I got to go back down to where I was. So that floor where I opened the doors and there was a guy behind it was the floor on which the Lucerda was hiding. He was in the captain's quarters, and that was like just on the other side of the ship. If I had literally just gone out of that hall instead of going upstairs, if I turned around and gone to the other side of the ship, I would have probably just found him.
Yeah.
But instead, so I came back. I circled back around because of the layout of the patrols. I ended up circling all the way around the ship from port side back to starboard side and re-entered the bridge basically right next to those stairs through a door I hadn't even seen. Like, so I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like this is so interconnected everywhere. There's a stair down, there's doors here. And it's funny because I often think that like all those sorts of paths are very confusing for players. But it's kind of freeing in a game like this to be like there's going to be a way to get there. And actually there's a little bit of level design stuff I've noticed where not only is there going to be a way to get there, but often there are going to be ways that basically open up to shortcut a lot of stuff, where you would be recovering old ground, right? The ship has a perfect example where there's a water filled compartment because they're taking on water. There's some guys who are trying to deal with that. You can shoot out a light and turn on the machine that the pump, the bilge pump that's gonna pump that room out. Well, that actually makes available a door that you could then go through to exit that instead of going back out the whole way you came in. I went back the whole way I came in because I often don't see the doors. That's one thing about the the light and dark is I forget I have the vision mode and I
Yeah.
often don't turn it on. And so I'm stumbling around in the dark relatively. Um, I don't have my, gamma correction turned way up or anything like that to make the world visible. I'm literally just stumbling around in the dark at times. Like, well, I kind of know where it is, like, okay, I'm positioned. I shot the light out next to the ladder. I drop down, I go down the ladder, and I'm like, and I know it's over there and I can hear the guy walking, so I just sneak over to where I know the machine is, but then I don't see the door. Um, so anyway, the vision modes have been something I have to like keep reminding myself are there because there are a lot of systems in the game. So
It's a lot. No,
it's a
it
little
is.
overwhelming from that standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. And each vision mode has different times and places to use it. And, the dark vision mode, you have to manage it if you go into a light area,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so it's all very cool stuff, but it is a little bit more of an advanced, you know, game in that way.
Yeah.
For especially for like a like a console game
Yeah,
approach.
very true. Yeah. Although
Um,
back then, I think the in particular the Xbox was marketed towards
yeah, more hardcore. Yeah.
a more PC style player. Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm. It fit Xbox really well. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But it's all. But that is, while we love immersive sims and talk a lot about them, and everyone knows that, at least I think you like them, but I
oh
love
yeah,
them.
yeah. No, I
Um,
like them a lot too. I mean, I even stealth in them a ton. So
yeah,
I do
but
like them a
there
lot.
is a reason that they kind of have an audience ceiling.
Yeah,
Dishonored's a amazing game, but I know it hits a certain group
yep.
well, but doesn't get broad. Yeah, because it's just
That's a
a
platinum
lot.
trophy game for me. So
Oh, well done.
yeah,
Well
yeah.
done.
I will go back and do it for Prey at some point too, but I just have not gotten around to it.
Pray.
So good. So
Yeah.
we still need to play Moon Crash sometime.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I think
Yeah.
about that
It's always in the back of my brain.
once a week. All right, so we talked about multiple objectives, solutions, and paths. Oh, and right there, I was actually touching on another thing, which was the dynamic mission objectives, which is something I really love about the game. Is that you'll be playing, and then suddenly something comes up that's strange, or different, and your handler says, "Oh, you're gonna have to do this now." Like the
Yeah.
flooded compartment is a good example of like, well, now that you're actually on the ground, there's some stuff we couldn't know from recon. Deal with it. Here's a suggestion, which is guiding the player, but also just reinforces that, planning doesn't survive contact with the enemy, right? So,
Yeah, I'm really wondering, because it feels like there's been some of that every mission so far. I'm really
mhm.
wondering if that was a goal that they set out to do,
Yeah,
to make it
feels like a pillar.
feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like make it feel like you're really a spy adapting
yeah,
and reacting to things. Um, that it would be nice to hear that that was the case, because the bank has some of that as well. And as far as, like, porous levels, the bank is another good example. The ship had some of it, but um, I didn't realize, like, basically there's these three offices you need to get into for access to the final bank vault.
hmm,
And you kind of, like, I wasn't as observant as I could have been, but there were alternate paths for each of them, at least one other, compared to the obvious way to do it. And oftentimes it's like, I think in each case it's to avoid a keypad, maybe.
mm-hmm.
So there's like a vent or like a window you can climb through, but the level design is so tight and well connected, in that oftentimes these alternate paths could also be your shortcut back to the main path,
Right.
if that makes sense. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
double duty level design, which is tricky to do. But like Hitman, because the levels are real world levels, there's good opportunities to motivate things if you're clever enough. Like, there's some real, like, yeah, I'm thinking of the
I mean, yeah,
main.
buildings
Yeah,
need airflow, for example. Okay,
yeah, buildings need
now
airflow.
you have
There's
crawl spaces or ductwork of some kind, right?
right.
That's a very common, obviously, trope in both modern stealth, and films, like in Die Hard or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
So
right.
it's like, oh, you got that, and of course, windows. You got windows for natural light, but also for views. Like, it depends on where it is, what a window's useful for, but like it's all of that pattern language stuff. And because it's set in a modern day, it's very reasonable. Like, we understand what they are, and it's reasonable to figure out whether they'd be there. The one case that I didn't expect that was the ductwork in the ship, and I didn't even see it. It's above eye level, and there was a room where I'm just like, I don't.
It's pretty tricky sometimes to see
Yeah,
it.
I was like,
Yeah, especially if you're.
I'm
Mhm.
not seeing it, and you have to kind of bump up against it to get the interact as well. So you have to be right next to the right spot. So since it's above you, I did not expect that. So that was one case where it kind of failed me. Um, Once I found it, I was
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, now I know what to look for. Like, that was kind of a learning moment for me of like, oh, I haven't really learned how to,
look for those.
yeah, to get
Same.
around in this game. So
Yeah, there's some key ones in in the bank too. So look for those.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the other example that in this era we could get away with is for like sides of buildings is molding.
Oh yeah.
And so there ended up being something I missed that could have, I think, been a stealthy route to get into this really critical room that ended up being my exit because I came around from the other direction. But in retrospect, I think I could have climbed up that way. And of course, once we start getting into more modern games that are getting really photorealistic, there's molding all over the place. And so now we have to distinguish which molding is important because some of it's not and some of it is. So we kind of got ourselves into trouble.
Or you could go the Assassin's Creed route and be like, you could climb any of it. Just climb wherever you want,
Yeah, true, agreed. But how do they, knowing that, I mean, they have to limit that somehow though, right?
They don't have to. And they don't really. There will occasionally be a building that has no handholds on it because it's very smooth. I don't know if it's like the equivalent of being brutalist or something, but so that is at times they'll be like, oh, I want to assassinate somebody in this building, but the area where I would climb is guarded, so getting past that is basically impossible. Or like, so they have ways that they do that.
They limit
in general, you can just climb anywhere.
But as far as pathing on a big building, there's no real path.
You just kind of go up, and the later in that series you go, the easier it is in a lot of cases, except for the sort of Eagles towers that kind of reveal the map. Those tend to be like a one path, because that's part of the challenge of getting up there is like reading where you're supposed to climb and how to get like, I'm stuck. I can't figure out how to get up from here. Oh, maybe I double back and go this other way and whatever.
Oh, so like a little bit of a puzzle route.
It's sort of like a maze, basically of handholds.
Yeah, right. Anyway, yeah. It's sort of a double-edged sword, blessing, curse, whatever. Because again, I've been playing a lot of Hitman, so I have some interesting comparisons. But there's you want the world to be high fidelity, and here it's right in that weird video game sweet spot where a molding can be there for a reason, and you're pretty clear about what that reason is,
right?
And you don't have to like do a lot of weird stuff to make a molding not accessible, like
right,
putting an obstacle in the way,
right. Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, the fidelity thing bites us at times because, you look at any sort of game with a lot of traversal, most games with a lot of traversal, and it's like, well, we have to paint everything to tell you, paint everything yellow, right, is the common trope, to tell you where to go, because it's hard to make those things stick out. I do appreciate games that like let you turn that on or off, depending on whether you want that challenge or not. I tend to not, but because I'm more like, I want to get to the action thing that happens after that. I enjoy the traversal, but I don't want to puzzle it out. But I'm sure there are players out there who are like, I want to puzzle it out. Like, I don't want to be told where the handholds are. I want to figure it out for myself. And there are whole games that are about that sort of thing now as well. So climbing games,
Right. Yeah.
Back then we had Crazy Climber, and that was it, Tim.
Yeah, like you're Karen, you're thinking of maybe.
Yeah, Karen, and there was one other one, not Venba, something similar though. There's been a couple along those lines lately. So
yeah. So I was just talking about alternate routes, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I think it's probably worth bringing up at this point is a question I asked you at the beginning or before the show, which was what map?
Yeah, I asked Brett in pre-show, like, so what did you use? Did you look at the map to figure out where, and it's like, what? Yeah. So in the
was that in the tutorial videos? I don't remember there being a map in the tutorial videos. That would have been
I don't remember the tutorial videos, but there was some VO that told me to use my map.
Oh boy.
At some point in the first level. It's in the what's it called? Not PsyOps, but it's in the
if you hit the home button, OPSEC.
Yeah, OPSEC, yeah. It's so you have your goals, the notes, and then map is listed there too.
Oh, and I usually just go in there for the goals. I just do it so quickly I don't actually even see the menu.
Yeah, there's also another thing in there I don't use.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 things in there. Yeah,
fourth option. But the map's actually pretty useful. It's a Splinter Celly digital 3D representation, and it's got like 3 layers of detail. You can have it like the first layer is just like the room and maybe the surrounding rooms you're in. So if you want to really like kind of sort of, you can zoom in and out of any of these layers. And so imagine it like almost like in an editor, right? You're scrolling around the block out of the level, and then zooming in and moving around, and then if you do the other layer, it goes the next kind of onion layer of the building. It adds it, and then there's a third one where you have the whole level, and in there they have red cubes representing your objectives.
Oh.
And you can really see.
So is it like a wireframe view type of thing?
Sort of,
yeah.
Wireframe with transparent walls,
translucency or something. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, translucent walls. Yeah. So, but I found it to be very helpful a lot of times when I'm like, where am I relative to the next objective? Like, and so I get in and rotate it around. And it's like, oh, okay, got it. I feel like for the most part, it represents even the ducts, right? It gives you kind of hints on your opportunities for level flow. So yeah, if you're ever kind of like relative, the bank is a little confusing because it's a bank and it's like, it looks all very similar to each other.
Right.
So I'm like, where am I going now? And so that was a helpful one for me too. And extraction's another one. It was like, as soon as I'm done with the level, I'm like, no idea where to go to get to extraction. So I opened the map up and it's like, oh, got it. So that was another use case. But yeah, it's actually, I was surprised at how effective it is. I think luckily the levels are fairly economically sized.
Yeah.
And focused.
They're very condensed.
They're very condensed and very
There's no wasted space. Or very little wasted space. The natural spaces in the first level are a little more like there's clearly a bunch of rock that we've carved out. But the ship and it sounds like the bank are both like they're using every inch like you would. Like why would you have dead space on either of those things? A building, you don't have dead spaces in buildings because square footage is expensive, right? So, it makes sense for the setting as well.
And the bank is a very tight level too, I would say, in that regard. In fact, there was this courtyard you'll find that you get a code from in a hilarious way. I won't spoil. Some fun writing there. And
is it 8675309?
No.
Okay.
There is a 3 and an O and a 9 though.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. I nearly nabbed it in my first guess.
But I was like, why is this courtyard here? Is it just, and how would I have gotten out? Because I went out to the courtyard from inside the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, and I went out a locked door that was locked from the outside or locked to the outside. So I was like, if I'd come on from the other direction, I wouldn't have been able to get in. So I was like, how would I have gotten, because the outside of the courtyard is fake space. It's just a, fence.
Right.
And then in retrospect, I ended up coming out of a window into that courtyard later in the level. And I was like, oh, crap. I could have gone in through that window.
Oh, man.
As I came out here, and it would have actually gotten me to a special, like I would have gotten to a room early. So it's just real, I think, and I haven't tested that theory out, by the way. Maybe you can't do it from the ground, but I think you can. So yeah, it's just, just really tightly wound, clockwork kind of levels so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's bread and butter for anything with, patrolling NPCs, right? Is the clockwork of when things are available to you and not. And that's pretty common across the various, the thief and, hitman and whatever, it all has that, because that's a key element of like player planning. Of like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it could be just moment to moment. I need to get down this hallway. Well, here's this momentary gap when I can cross the hall into that other office, and then I'll be able to cross, to get to the end of the hall, the next cycle, and things like that. And so that clockwork is really important.
Yeah, you need kind of constant player predictability.
Yeah.
Not just in the systemic rules, but just in the scripted rules too,
Yeah.
and such. So yeah, it's um, so far they've been doing a really good job at that. So I'm appreciating it, and I am always a fan of like very tightly, as you know, tightly designed levels and very focused levels. Um, as a player, and so like the
I'm
fact
not
that
as a level designer. You're like, throw all that out.
there's a level designer, I'm like sprawling, and I
Extra
put in
dimensional spaces.
wall missions all the time, and
Yeah.
I put spaces inside that are impossible for
Yeah.
for to be constructed in real life,
But to
which I did
play.
once. Yeah. So yeah, I get ahead of myself, but and ironically, I haven't designed a level since then, so who knows what I do today. But like the ship level is a good example for me in that it was like I love level. It's like it's on a ship. The whole level's on a ship, and
Yeah.
you're just like getting to know the ship, and getting to know the bank. And I hope it continues in that regard, where it's just very like this is the location, this is the op, and it has its own little story to it that that connects to the macro story, but it isn't
Right.
overdone. Yeah.
Right. And that tied into another topic, which was this sort of, not everything taking place in one location of this game. I mean, which is a
Right.
contrast with Metal Gear as a espionage series, that those tend to be a little more like go to this one location more or less, the location might be fairly large, but it's not like you're going to go someplace totally different. You're not going to suddenly be in Antarctica, if you started off in the jungle, or something like that. And it has that sort of globe-trotting Mission Impossible feel, like we talked about, with
Right.
regards to the lasers of like, you're going places. That's what spies do. You pick them up and you put them down somewhere, and they got to figure it out.
Yeah, there's a globetrotting nature to it that, at least in the sort of in that type of spy, which is interesting because you made a really good point in pre-show that I know I don't give you credit for that very often, but it
Yeah.
was a really good point.
Well, thank you.
That
Don't
Metal
worry.
Gear.
When I edit, I make sure you comment on how good my points are all the time.
You
I just
take
take
words
that
from
little snippet, you just gave.
You
I'll use
are
that
a
again.
good developer. That was a good idea. Say, okay, Brett. No, this is the one time. This is a genuine one. Yeah, but you just made the point that, for better or for worse, I'd have to do some more thinking on this of why. But the Kojima Productions games, tend to be very few locations, and when you're in those locations, it's kind of one op, and you're doing multiple phases of that op. Metal Gear Solid specifically talking about Shadow Moses. No,
Right. Shadow Moses, right?
The Shadow Moses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outer Heaven is later, or earlier, depending on how you look
Yeah.
at it, or
Oh, boy.
both.
Yeah.
And
my
so
mind is blown, Mr. Kojima.
there's multiple phases to Metal Gear Solid, but you're in that one location, right?
Right.
And of course, in V, you do go to a couple different open world areas, right? Desert. And four is actually from one of my favorites in that regard, because there is each chapter you go to a different location, but still the whole chapter you're in that location.
Right.
Oh man, was that Prague? Yeah, I think it was Prague.
I think it's Prague. Yeah, I think you're right.
Section was so good because it was so noir. Yeah, I forgot all about that till just now.
Yeah, that's a good section.
Because you're like in a trench coat and you're sneaking in plain sight. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So I guess 4 does a little bit better job at that than the others, but for the most part. And the funny thing about V that is hilarious to me now to think about it is, I think my favorite thing about that weird product was actually Ground Zeroes, because it's technically part of that product, but because it was like a prologue, I guess you can say.
Right.
And I don't know if you played that or not.
No, I haven't played either that or V.
Or V, yeah. So Ground Zero,
my thumb recover.
So, okay, all right. You're gonna milk that for years. Anyway, no. The reason I want to bring it up in context of this is, so as you know, V is basically open world game, and there's there's the desert location and the jungle location, Africa and ooh, I'm not sure where the desert location is now that I think about it. Anyway, two just
It
but
could
they're
also be in the Sahara, right? So
yeah, I could they both could be on the same continent, yeah, but it is the missions and the ops in that on that open world space are you're just going from basically base to base in the same location, and the story progresses that way. But Ground Zeroes was this prologue thing where technically I think you're playing as a different character. I won't get into it, um, even though you're quote unquote Snake, and it takes place in one small base,
mm,
and the whole thing, it's like one level basically, but it's very dense, like levels we're talking about in chaos theory. There's a lot of there's like these little sub objectives, and there's these little there's a bunch of different paths. It's very porous. It's very systemic. um, it's just one base, and it's
yeah,
at night, and it feels very, very infiltrating and very cool. So like I weirdly like this, which we think was intended to be part of the main product, but because they were taking so long with V, they released this as its own thing because people were pissed. They couldn't
yeah.
wait any
They
longer.
wanted it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it was weird, but ironically, that was probably my favorite thing about that.
I wonder. I mean, thinking about sort of spy fiction, because I do read a fair amount of, between Reacher and the Gray Man stuff. Like that is a kind of split you see in books as well. And Clancy tended to be like multiple location for some of the bigger stories, but then you'd have like the Hunt for Red October, which would be the submarine, but all there's some ground, people dealing with it on land somewhere, some in Langley or something like that. Um, but the real drama was happening on the ship. But you read books, and Reacher's stories are almost always basically in one location,
Yeah,
whereas the
good
Gray
point. You're
Man,
right.
moves around a lot, often in one book, even though it might be one kind of it's all connected and it's one mission. He's crossing borders, and that's a good source of drama as well, right? Crossing a border is a security place you have to get through, so it's there's some inherent tension there. But it is a sort of split in certainly older spy fiction, like the Quiller series or something like that, or some of the other ones I mentioned last week. Like you have that sense of this is jumping around a lot, versus this is an op in one place, right? And they're one story, but it's two different ways to kind of feel like a spy, and having this globetrotting, is just kind of one flavor of that, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, and the two other touchstones, because I don't read as much as you on this stuff for sure. Nobody does. But for me, it tends to be movies, right, or
right,
TV.
yeah,
And Reacher's a good example because I love that show. But like Bond and Mission
right,
Impossible are the other touchstones for me, right? Bond
yeah,
is
and
all
they're
about
all over the place.
globetrotting.
Yeah,
Mission Impossible is all about like you know globetrotting and set pieces. Like, what
yeah,
is the craziest set piece we can think of?
right.
A sunk submarine under the Arctic
Yeah,
Ocean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
without a wetsuit. It's
yeah,
like, well, you checked every box there,
yeah, yeah,
and that scene was amazing. I thought. So yeah, so there's different kind of, and then there's and then I guess obviously for games, Hitman is still another touchstone for me because Hitman is all about um, contrasting locations even per location.
right,
So it's
yeah,
like I feel like they've always done a good job at trying to make sure that one mission takes place here, the next mission is very different from the previous one.
right, yeah.
It's like,
The
oh, I'm
really
going
open kind of racetrack versus, the
yeah.
fashion show, which is all in this
Yeah,
one building.
timing,
Yeah, yeah.
right. And so that's that variety, an opera house and then a rave.
Yeah,
It's like
right, right.
and stuff like that. So it's really interesting I mean, we're definitely digging deep on this one, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's a genre I love so, so much, and I play so,
It's
so
very
much.
flexible in that way, right? And that,
Yeah.
that's one of the really nice things about it. There's multiple ways to approach that fantasy, and that the fantasy involves a lot of different things, and you can zoom in all the way in to be like really detailed about the one thing, or you can zoom out and be jumping around from multiple things to get that clash of experiences in one kind of piece, you know. So whether it's 2 hours for a movie or 10 hours for a book or what have you. So well, last thing, and then we'll go to the outro, is just that one of the things I appreciate about these different locations is they really are just the location, and they'll use the briefing to tell you how you got there. And it can be as elaborate as they want it to be because it's just some voice lines. But the briefing tells you how you got onto the ship, and like in your head it's like, oh yeah, I was helicoptered in and they dropped me in the water, you know, in front of the ship, so that the ship would catch up to me and I could climb up onto the front of the ship. But what really happened was they told you that was going to happen, and then you started on the front of the ship. And I
Yeah.
love that. And the same with the exfiltrations, as you and a very nice point pointed out. I'll just repay the favor there. In the exfiltrations, it's the same way. It's like you just go to the point where you're exfiltrating, and you know it's a helicopter or you're stealing a boat or whatever's happening in that moment, because you got that in the briefing. But none of that actually you have to see or animate. Or I mean, they could have done that. I mean, I'm sure there's some constraints on the project that might have, you know, prevented them. You know, the market would still have been relatively small, and that just blows up the budget to do all of that stuff because you need extra assets for everything, etc. But it also just like cuts out parts that I don't think I would have much fun playing anyway. So I'm very appreciative of the economy.
Yeah, it's down to business. It's just like,
Yeah,
go be a spy.
we're not here to
And
bob in the water.
yeah, you made a good point again, that in pre-show that the opening of Metal Gear Solid,
Yeah,
it's like, holy, when do you get thumbs on sticks? It's
yeah,
like, 10 minutes
it's a long
in
time.
or
Yeah. It
something.
feels
And
like 10
even
minutes. It's probably 3, but yeah.
I mean, it's just it feels like forever, and it's like cool and presented well and very cinematic and blah blah blah. We know movies, and Kojima and movies. We know
But this
that.
is why people started asking for skip buttons.
Yeah, it's all it's all their fault.
It's them.
Well, but it is, and it sets the world up well. And we didn't talk about this last episode, but if you just start the game up and don't touch anything, this game does, Chaos Theory does have this fairly ridiculous long pre-rendered. Well,
Oh yeah,
it's
I watched that.
it,
Yeah.
it's exported into a movie, but it was from game footage that they edit together, kind of like a trailer. It's like a really long trailer but it, but all it is just like showing a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that you can do and that you will do, and that what Sam does best. But it's kind of just like a long set
So
of
just
scenes.
keep it just keeps
And I
going, yeah.
feel like someone's like, hey, we need an intro movie for this thing.
Or
Can you?
yeah, in attract mode probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a track mode. It does feel like an attract mode they just put. Yeah, you're right. It probably is the attract mode they just put at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, they just made it a video and put it at the beginning
But
of the
then
game.
they have the pre-rendered like news briefings and some stuff to set up. But
Yeah.
but it isn't just this elaborate. How did I get to the mission? To your point, it's just like, yeah, it's get in there,
Yeah.
and whether that was production related or scope, related, or whatever the reason,
Or just a good choice.
or just a good choice. And those kind of, if it was a constraint, then those kinds of constraints can really benefit a game, not just the production,
Yeah.
but benefit the pacing of a game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you've made the good choice to listen this far, we appreciate it. Thank you for listening. We also love to get your reviews. We read one last week from Shadowlord72. Another shout out to Shadowlord, if that is his real name. And of course, we'd love to get your email at devgameclub@gmail.com with whatever questions or comments you may have for the cast. We're on the web at devgameclub.com, and my co-host Twitch is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with a JR at the end.
What are we playing this week? There's a maybe in there.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me to
Yeah,
say?
sure. Go ahead.
Okay. We may be, and this is contingent on one thing.
Yeah.
Brett's stamina.
My stamina meter.
Stamina meter for sleep or staying awake. We are going to attempt, though I guess the other reason it might not happen is technical.
Yeah, we'll do a test tomorrow to make sure we can do it.
Yeah, we're going to try to do so. We didn't talk about it yet. Have we talked about it? Chaos Theory has a co-op mode. What? A stealth action game with a co-op mode? Almost unheard of. There's only one Metal Gear game that did it. And I played all the way through co-op.
Of course you did.
And so, yeah, we're going to try. So apparently it is a separate set of missions, which you can imagine makes sense because they would probably design them differently.
Yeah. The spaces would not afford 2 players, I don't think.
Yeah,
what I've played so far. You'd have to really rethink it.
It would be a whole different, you'd have to really rethink it. Yeah. So, not impossible, but there aren't many stealth action games that do this. So anyway, they have a co-op mode / I don't know if it's like a mini campaign. It's 7 levels, I think, compared to on the PC at least. I think there's different levels, ironically, on the some of the console stuff. But the PC and Xbox or the PlayStation stuff, I should say. So anyway, yeah. So we're gonna attempt to play Chaos Theory co-op during my stream,
and we will see how the Knucklehead stealth plays out.
Oh, I'm terrified. It's going to be the worst. I mean, it's like, hey, ready?
Wait, and another alarm? Why is there another alarm?
Okay, and 1, 2. Nope, you went too early there.
It's on 3.
Okay, don't go. Okay, yep. So I think everyone's going to die in this.
If I don't make it, I'm assuming more Hitman. Oh, you actually already said I hit the Hitman bonus.
I have. So I'm a little. Yeah, I'm playing.
You don't even have to say. So some more Hitman stuff.
I have a surprise Hitman plan as a backup.
Okay. We will also maybe play some Spelunky to get us warmed up.
Yeah, that's true. We could do the tandem.
Yeah, we can do that too. We have a fan-run Discord. There's a link for that in the show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by the immortal Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo, Discord, the merch store, all by Mark Garcia. Have fun being plucked out of the sea this week, and good night.
Good night.